And Pickle and I don't often spend weekends together, kind of by design. It's usually like a nice way of us getting separation from one another. It's nice. But we did spend a little bit of time this weekend together in Waco at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, specifically at the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame induction ceremony down there in Waco. We broadcast it live on TexanLive.com. You can go back and watch it, right? It's on demand right now. It's also on our YouTube page as well. You can go find it. And it is always a fun event at a challenging time on our calendar. May is very busy for us, for Texan Live and for the magazine. But every time, and I don't know if you get this feeling, Pickle, because we've now broadcast this thing for the last 4 years, 3 years?
3, I think.
3 years. Whenever I see it on my calendar, I'm always like, oh man, I gotta go to Waco. I gotta do this thing. We gotta drive down there. And then when we get there, I'm like,
it's a blast.
I'm really glad we came. Like, once you're there, it's like awesome. Like, I'm glad we did it. And once again, it delivered. If you've never been to the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, it really is super cool. Mm-hmm. We brought Erin Hardigan this year. She co-hosted, or she hosted, and I was also there, our broadcast. And she has been to the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, but she's never been to the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Mm-hmm. And so we walked through the Hall of Fame, as I usually do. See the Southwest Conference Hall of Honor, Texas High School Football Hall of Fame section back there, which is super cool. As well as we went and we saw Wax Dave.
Because of course.
You got to go to the Dave Campbell library that they have there with Wax Dave wearing Dave's old clothes. He donated those. Those are actually his clothes.
Which is awesome.
That he donated to the Hall of Fame, which rocks. But it was a fun event there at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, or Texas High School Ball Hall of Fame. And this year we had an outstanding group of inductees. Riley Odoms, if you don't know how they do it, I guess I should back up. The way that the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame does it is that one inductee goes in per decade. Because they don't want it to be like, oh, we're putting in all these guys from the 2000s or all these guys from the 1990s. They want it to be relatively balanced in that regard, which I think is the right way to go about it. So as a result, you get all these different generations of Texas high school football. And when you go, what I think is so cool is you really do get to tell the whole story of Texas high school football. And that's what I think is so cool. So representing 1969 and before, it was Riley Odoms from Corpus Christi West Oso, who was really one of the most transformative tight ends. Went on, he was a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, but he cut his teeth there at Corpus Christi West Oso. He gave a great speech there. Brent Duhan from Port Arthur Jefferson went in for the 1980s. He was unable to be there. I believe Craig said that he had recently had surgery.
Yes.
Somebody had a medical procedure.
Yeah. But it sounded like he was doing well. It wasn't anything. It was just a medical procedure that meant he could not drive to Waco.
Recovery. So Brent Duhan, the outstanding receiver from Port Arthur Jefferson, was there. For the 1990s, Cory Redding, representing North Shore, the East Side Boys. He was there, an enormous man, a very large defensive tackle, and a menace there. We have a great interview Mallory Hartley did with Cory Redding there at there. And first of all, it's not quite like her standing next to Leonard Davis, but he did tell a great Leonard Davis story.
Yes.
There's a tease. So that's on our YouTube page. You can see that interview. But Cory Redding was there. Posthumously, Cedric Benson went into the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame for the 2000s. And certainly one of the most transformative players in Texas high school football. I mentioned this on our pregame show when we were talking about it. I think there's an argument to be made that Cedric Benson was the last Texas high school football legend. And what I mean by that is he came along at that time in the early 2000s, which was right before the internet. And you would hear stories, mythical stories of this running back out in the Permian Basin at Midland Lee, and it's you'll never believe he's actually the greatest player of all time. And it's you're talking about Bigfoot. You know what I mean? It's man, you'd never believe what I saw.
Yep.
And now, when that happens, like Kyler Murray, when Kyler Murray really started cooking at Allen, everyone was just like, I'll just go watch Kyler Murray highlights, you know? With Cedric Benson, this was pre-internet, and so it was all like word of mouth and stuff. And then you saw him, and you're like, oh, you're the most spectacular running back I've ever seen. He, of course, was tragically killed recently. His mother and I believe his brother were there to represent him and induct him. A very emotional moment there when Cedric Benson went in posthumously. There were a couple of other outstanding inductees there. The Dave Campbell Contributor of the Game Award. So there's an award named for our namesake, Dave Campbell, which honors people who are not necessarily, who maybe fall outside the bounds of the normal Hall of Fame induction.
Yeah, usually it's a coach or player.
Coach or player.
Coach or player is a pretty easy way to put it. These are people that are associated with the game of Texas high school football, but not necessarily solely through that.
Perfect example. The Dave Campbell Contributor of the Game Award is how Craig Way is in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
I think we all agree Craig Way should be in the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame, right? He can't get in because he didn't play or didn't coach. But the Dave Campbell Contributor of the Game is a way of honoring people around the sport. And this year it went to Robert Lee Brown. If you don't know who Robert Lee Brown is, he is the head of the Prairie View Interscholastic League Coaches Association, the PVI-LCA. And he has been so instrumental in just keeping the legacy of the PVIL alive, which of course was the league for black athletes in the era before integration. And the stories that they tell and just his diligence in making sure that that is a part of Texas high school football history, 100% deserving and certainly a long time coming, quite frankly, for Robert Lee Brown to go into the Texas High School Hall of Fame. And then there were two people who went in as the Eddie Joseph Texas High School Football Hall of Fame coach honorees. One of them was John Wilkins. John Wilkins, of course, the legendary coach at Odessa Permian. Who was there and has some unbelievable, ungodly record there during the 80s when he was really, really cooking. He was the guy who was right before Gary Gaines. If you're here for Friday Night Lights, Gary Gaines was the coach during the Friday Night Lights era. He was the guy who preceded it and really helped make that like the preeminent dynasty in Texas high school football. But he was there, gave a great speech, very funny, very, very funny. But I will tell you this. Mojo,
they showed out.
They were rolling deep. There were probably
like 50, 60 people there for him.
Probably like 25, 30 former players. He asked the former players to stand up, and like half the room stood up. It was crazy. It was awesome. And then after he got done, they did the Mojo chant, which is great. But John Wilkins goes into the Texas High School Hall of Fame. The other gentleman who went in is Tim Buchanan. Tim Buchanan, the former Aledo coach, of course, the legendary coach there with Aledo. He goes into the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame. Again, long time coming. I think they want to wait for you to retire. It's not always that they do it. Like Phil Danaher went in when he was still active. Yeah. But I think they want to wait for you to retire. Tim Buchanan retired, and then they were like, yep, it's you, immediately.
Yeah, I think that's safe, you know.
Oh, yeah, I think that's true.
Just even for, like, more reasons that could happen outside the field, it's probably better to keep the legacy of the High School Football Hall of Fame intact.
I agree. But Tim Buchanan goes into the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame. A great induction speech as well. But before he got inducted, he did catch up with our Mallory Hartley to talk about the honor.
Mallory Hartley, Dave Campbell's Texas Football, here in beautiful Waco, Texas, at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Standing here, the man of the hour, former Aledo head football coach, Tim Buchanan. Coach, I bet you get this question all the time, but I want to ask it. Are you missing being down there on the sidelines yet or not?
You know what? I've handled it really well this time. I miss it. Yeah, do I miss the kids? I miss the kids. But I go and watch a lot of football practices now. I've seen football practices in West Texas, South Texas, East Texas, and North Texas. I've been to games around the state. So it's been a lot of fun, actually.
And what an incredible run you had at Aledo. The only coach to win a state title in 4 separate decades. 8 titles to be exact. When you got that call initially that you were going to be inducted into the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame for the class of 2024, what were your first thoughts?
Well, first, you just made me sound really damn old.
I did not mean to do that. You know that.
Well, you know, Dr. Brydup called me and First of all, when you get a call from Dr. Bryant, I was still employed by Aledo ISD, I think maybe at that time. I'm not sure, but it scares the heck out of you when you get a call from the UIL, especially Charles Bryant. But no, it honestly brought tears to my eyes because getting inducted into the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame is the ultimate honor that a high school football coach in Texas could have.
Well, and I was going to say, too, you just mentioned it. I mean, you're joining the Hall of Honor with some of the greats like G.A. Moore and Gordon Wood. So kind of talk about that and what that means to be joining some of the best Texas high school football coaches in the history of the sport.
Well, I mean, sitting next to John Wilkins from Odessa Permian, Gordon Wood, who I can remember running track and going to Brownwood for track meets, and G.A. Moore, all of those guys are legends. And just to be mentioned with these guys is, I keep wanting to wake up or thinking I'm going to wake up and think it was a dream, because it is not something that whenever I went into coaching 40 years ago that I thought was ever going to happen.
And finally, you got to watch your successor, Robbie Jones, bring home another state title to Parker County last year. Man, walk me through that. I bet that was one of the coolest moments in your career.
Well, I've gotten to do it twice now, because when I went full-time AD, back when we started growing so fast that I couldn't keep up, and Steve Wood did it, and then to see Robbie do it, because Robbie has been there since the year 2000.
Right.
Robbie he is the longest tenured coach other than I was. Now he is the longest tenured coach at Aledo ISD, and he deserved the job, number one, and he showed how good of a football coach he was. As you saw, they really didn't need me around anyway. So
they kicked you to this curb a little bit.
Yeah, they said, you go on down the road. We got a better guy behind you.
Well, that's so awesome. We'll be watching your Bearcats, of course, this past year. But thanks so much for joining us today, and really congratulations on such an incredible honor.
Thank you.
Aaron, back to you.
My name's Greg Mallory. It's very rude. You tossed to Aaron. Weird. Anyway, Tim Buchanan, now a Texas High School Hall of Famer, well-deserved, obviously. A fantastic coach and a multiple-time state champion. One of 3 coaches to win a state championship in 4 different decades, which is like crazy to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Like
you gotta catch it right.
90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. It's like, that's insane. But anyway, obviously deserving. There were a couple of other things I wanted to mention. Craig Way was the MC. Great to see Craig, per usual. Got to catch up with him. A lot of our friends were there. They also get to, it's very cool to see the
state champion winning head coaches.
They honor all the state champions. I believe everyone was there. Reginald Samples couldn't make it from Duncanville. And then I believe Nathan Hayes couldn't make it from Benjamin. But other than that, all the UIL state champion coaches were there to be honored. There was was the THSCA award? What was the award that Oglesby got?
The Gordon Wood Award.
Gordon Wood Award, yeah.
And then the Tom Landry Award was to Randy Allen.
Randy Allen. So,
but yeah, Oglesby.
Oglesby earned the Gordon Wood Award, which is given to a team that represents excellence in Texas high school football, both on and off the field. Oglesby, Jeb Dixon got up there and gave a great speech on behalf of Oglesby. I thought it was super. This is just
speech.
It was a great speech, and I will also just say, I think it's super cool that they honored a 6-man team. That's me. I think that's great. I think, generally speaking, it's been 11-man. I think it's super cool they honored a 6-man team, well deserving of what Jeb Dixon and company have done at Oglesby. And then, the Tom Landry Award was given to by the Tech, which is an award presented by the Texas High School Coaches Association in conjunction with the Hall of Fame. Was given to Randy Allen of Highland Park, which is perfect. If you know anything about Randy Allen, we're getting the Tom Landry Award, considering he wears the hat because of Tom Landry. So he gave a great speech as well. Just great to see a lot of friends there at the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame. There was one other thing, and we talked about it on the broadcast, that there was a QR code that you can donate to the Texas Sports Hall of Fame and the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame. There's a variety of ways that they raise money to keep that thing going. It's a nonprofit, is the Texas Sports Hall of Fame and the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame. But one of the ways that they do it is through donations and then through auctions. and they auction off a variety of different things. And so, for example, they had there was a silent auction going on, and you could get a Rams helmet signed by Matthew Stafford, right? That's pretty cool. They had like a bunch of other things like donated from the Waco community that you can get, but there were a variety of other things out there. And about 15 minutes before the silent auction went dark, I just kind of zoomed through the room because I always like seeing what they kind of have. I've never bid on anything. I've never bid on anything in the Texas for that. But there was one thing that caught my eye because it didn't have any bids. There were no bids. And I'm like, okay, let's check out the minimum. The minimum was like within my range. And I'm like, you know what? At the very worst, I'm going to drive a little bit more revenue to the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, right? Because I'll bid something and then somebody will come and outbid me, and great. All of a sudden, everybody wins in this one. So at the end of the night, they announced all the winners of the silent auction, and lo and behold, they call my name because nobody else bid on this thing. And so I am now the proud owner. Let me find this. This is what I have to run to my desk to get. Let's see if I can pull it out of my backpack. I am now the proud owner of a football signed by the class of 2018, the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame. That includes Brad Dusek, who's Dave Campbell's Texas football cover boy. Ken Washington is on here. Tommy Jeter. Phil Danaher's on here. Bob Shelton. Bruce Hardy, the late great Bruce Hardy. And then, one person who was there and one person who wasn't. Jonathan Gray. It's Jonathan Gray right there. And Dave Campbell's Texas football multiple-time cover boy, Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, that's a good one.
On this.
That's a good class.
And I got this for less than you think. I was happy to get it. So I'm probably going to put this, I might expense it. Maybe I should just expense it and make Adam pay for it, because I'll put it up here on the shelves, stuff like that. But pretty cool. I was happy to win the silent auction for this thing. So yeah, I'm not going to complain about this. Pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
But it was a great weekend down there at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame for the Texas High School Hall of Fame induction ceremony. We appreciate everybody watching, and we appreciate them letting us crash their party. You know.
Yeah, Tiffany and Mike Anderson do such a great job with
really
that
do.
event, and I know they work very hard for it. So it's always a really cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah, it's a lot that goes into that you don't see behind the scenes to make that thing happen. But it's a very special event, and a lot of fun to see old friends down there in the middle of a busy time for us. But like I said, it's always very good once we get down there. So we appreciate the Texas Sports Hall of Fame for having us jabronis down there to be part of their special day.